Hello everybody, is the mic working? Can everyone hear me? Can everyone see the screens? Okay, perfect, cool. So my name is Ben Owens. I'm what's known as head of our cloud office, and I'll kind of explain what that is later on. But basically today I want to just quickly go through the post office's journey, what it's trying to do, the starting position, where it's got to, and also go through some of the things that kind of I wish I'd known before I started. Quite a bit of it isn't out and out technical, so I apologise about that right now, but it's almost kind of good for you to see some of the issues we have on the other side, some of the things that trip us up that means that the engineers get very frustrated with me and the people around me who are trying to sort of push on, and why we can't do that sometimes, okay? And when I go through them, there's no particular order in that. It was just a bit of a brain fart, just trying to sort of say, well, this is all the stuff that I've gone through. So, oh, sorry, hold on. So first off, it's probably worthwhile me recapping who actually are the post office, because most people mistake us for the Royal Mail. Yeah, we're not the Royal Mail, okay? So the amount of conversations I have around delivering, you haven't delivered my parcel to my house. Post office is effectively a retailer. Okay, so it's your high street presence, it's those shops on the high street, or embedded in a store, in the WH Smiths, in the McCalls, in a whole range of different places. So in effect, the post office is in a unique position. It's a retailer, but it's also kind of state-owned. So it's a private company, but it's wholly owned by the government. And I've been doing quite a bit of work on this recently, because one of the things I'll come into is I'm renegotiating the AWS contract at the moment, and it's important whether I'm a public sector entity or a private entity. And so the post office is is a public sector. Okay, now what that means to us is it's a strange place to be, because trying to get your priorities, trying to get your funding model, it's a very different place to like a private sector. And I've worked in both, and it just means it impacts the way that I look at my funding figures, the way I can look at my investment figures, the way I can sort of talk about my portfolio. It impacts me. We've also, we're quite a big organization. We've got like 11,500 branches, so it's a big place to be. We've got kind of difference between how we own them, loads of really remote locations, so you have some very strange conversations around, well, what will this work like if I've got over a really copper wire over like 50 miles into some random post office in the Outer Hebrides, or if we're going via satellite link, etc. You have some really interesting sort of challenges to overcome. We've also got a big mandate to serve underserviced communities. So we've got a very dispersed location. So that means that sometimes when we have a problem, trying to understand what that problem is, it's not just quickly phone someone up. It's quite an in-depth thing. That means it's an issue for us around our profitability, which again goes back into our funding model. And also, one of the biggest things we do as well, believe it or not, especially for these remote communities, is actually access to cash. So they don't have ATMs, they don't have ways of getting cash. So we provide a lot of that. And then also one of the other things we have, which goes when we start talking about how do I understand what's going on, what do I do, what's my actual product. Everyone, most of us will probably, having talked to product managers, product owners, well, most of our products we don't really own ourselves. Other people own them, and we have to then riff off of that. That means that we get some interesting conversations with product owners at points. And mails, so with the Royal Mail, which we're definitely not, is just one part of it. We do payments, we do government services, we do travel money, we do all sorts of stuff. So the actual platform we have is quite an interesting platform, because it should just be like a till in Tesco's or Morrison's or Lidl's or wherever. It's unfortunately got to do so much more than that, and that's what causes our complexity and some of the challenges we have in our systems. So if I talk about the starting point that we had in the post office, so when I joined the post office. I started their consulting 3 years ago, and I've been now full-time for the last 2 years. So when I joined, everything was outsourced. So, and when I say everything was outsourced, everything was outsourced. We had no engineers. We had, no, that's a lie. We had a small group of engineers doing some, things with spreadsheets and some other sort of, quick app type things, but it was all very local point solution stuff. That meant that it was a strange place to start off with, because when we talk about some of our challenges around CI/CD, guess what? It was there wasn't anything there. When we talk about engineers, we all think about technical problems. I'm also looking at, well, crikey, how do I actually get even a laptop to an engineer? I mean, that's the biggest challenge we have. How do I understand their career paths? How do I make sure we have a way of doing it? So I've got loads of challenges around that. Our legal position. So some of you probably have heard about the Post Office recently, probably not in a positive way. So we got ourselves into trouble with the way that we were managing our service with our franchisees. So most postmasters aren't direct employees of us, they're franchisees, and we got into a lot of trouble that week. And that's basically because we didn't understand our system. We'd outsourced it, we didn't understand it. That's understandably and quite rightly so had a massive ramification on the way the Post Office operates. And that means that we operate in a very different way. So I can probably have a more, when I say interesting, I don't mean interesting, a really, really boring topic around audit and the way you audit things in AWS than I would ever wish to in my life. But we have to be so careful the way we do things, and we can understand how things happen. It's hugely, hugely important for us. And also in the backdrop for me and for some of the team that I work with, we had a load of big contracts that were coming up to expire. So suddenly, when you go into a project and someone says, well, that timeline you've put on me is just bullshit. You're just doing it because you want to push your timeline. Sometimes there really is a driver for this. So this drives some of our behavior, what we're trying to do and where we're going. So if I just very quickly look at our journey, so on the left-hand side, you've got me trying to, sort of show that we had Post Office, we had a load of, outsourced contracts in massive silos. So these were capabilities that were silos, and the big black one there is the Horizon, which is basically our point of sale system, and I'll come on to that in a minute. That's the thing that I've done a lot of work with, and that's caused us a lot of issues. Really expensive to change. Anything was $100,000 plus for me to do anything to it. Hard to insource because you've had it with a supplier for 25 years. Trying to get that, understand how you insource that or resource it is very, very hard. Hard to ensure responsibilities. That's what caused our legal issues. We didn't really understand what was going on. And then really hard to be innovative. You don't have anything of yourself, you don't have any engineers, you don't have any way you can do something. Hard to be really agile and innovative. So that's the reason why we've ended up going to what we call the Pole Cloud. So, the reason why I was trying to do that backdrop is to explain this is the reason why we went to the cloud, not because it was just the latest, trendiest thing going. It's because we had a real need to do something of ourselves. And this is somewhere where we can control it and we can manage it and operate it. So what is the Pole Cloud? And apologies, I'm trying to keep this. So first off, we have what we call the Cloud Office, which is effectively, it's a team of people. It's a bit like a center of excellence. I've desperately trying to avoid a cloud center of excellence because that can and cannot become a bit of a dumping ground. But we have a bunch of people that runs a whole load of cloud platform tooling and has done a whole load of enablement to allow programs and projects to operate and work in the cloud really quickly and easily. We have people who have a really good understanding of what's going on. So when other programs and projects don't know what to do, they often come to us. Oh, has it just gone back on? Yeah. So we have some real good SMEs and some real good sort of people they can touch base with. And we also, as I was trying to show with the person in the police uniform, no fetish going on here, that was, we have governance as well. So we're trying to make sure people don't do stupid things. The problem with the cloud, it's really, really enables you. It's like fantastically, impressive. But crikey, we had a big argument with one of our programs because I was trying to restrict them to the EU West 2 region, London region in AWS. They had a very good reason why they needed to go into the Virginia region in the US. We had a long discussion about it. They promised me they wouldn't do anything. We put some service control policies in there to make sure they didn't do it. God damn them, they went and did something stupid. So, you kind of constantly get this thing where you've got programs rushing ahead trying to get stuff done and you've got to govern that and make sure it's right. We also built the cloud platform, so that enablement service. Again, none of this is going to be rocket science to anyone here. I'm sure you all know this, but it's the simple stuff. Do we have a front door? Can we enable people? Can we onboard people, get people in? Can we have network access to the stuff we need to get network access to? Can I charge people for it? Because crikey, people do some really crazy things and I get the bill and I need to make sure I can pass that back. Do I have some services that I can give them? So I've got to give them a reason to be on my platform, make it easier for them. And then also I've got the security. So I've got a load of security tooling, security view around that. So and again, none of this is particularly rocket science. I'm sure you're sitting there going, that's what my platform does. We're not an IT or tech company. We're just trying to do the sort of basics. The other thing that I was very keen to do is put some accelerators in there. So a nice library, sort of a software catalog library, so people can just go and sort of say, oh crikey, I need, I'm going to sort of have a smile on my face, but I need an S3 bucket. I'll come on to this in a second. Can I grab an S3 bucket just so I know that there's a template and a blueprint there that is safe and valid? Those accelerators are something that we as an organisation in the Post Office haven't yet really enabled as much as we want. We've got some good stuff, and we've got some stuff that's coming on, but we haven't been as fast as we want there. And also, access to innovation. So through our team, we've got that enablement about going out to our partners, both in Amazon and in Microsoft, to make sure we can get our access to the TAMs. The other thing that we have been, and this is that Pathfinder box that probably a lot of you are going, what the hell is that about? So we're a government sector body effectively. There is a lot of stuff that we have to deal with that other people won't have to deal with. And there's, so you may do actually, so flow down contracts, right? I've probably spent more time in my life in this past 6 months talking about flow down contracts. And what I mean by that is, if I start using a tool that in any way could potentially touch the postmaster data, we actually, because we have a banking service, I then have to flow that down to all the banks. It's a wonderful process. No, it's horrible. Okay, it's aged me considerably. But I have to be really careful about kind of what I do. But also, I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm thinking about all the programs that are running on my platform as well. So we're trying to do stuff that enables them and does that. And sometimes that's what your sort of cloud enablement team should be doing. It's that Pathfinder, Trailfinder, trying to make things easy for the programs, which is what we've been trying to do. So what have we built in the Post Office so far? This is where I come a bit more Post Office centric. So if you look at the black box, this is called the Horizon migration. So that service that is run by one of our partners and currently sits in one of their data centers, we tried to migrate that into AWS. The key word there is tried. Okay, we didn't do it. Okay, I'll come on to some of the lessons learned, and that was a hugely painful, difficult period for us. That was really hard. I will come on to some of that. Massive IS play. That was us literally trying to take what they had and bring it into the data center as much as possible. The reason behind that was because when we looked at that, it was in a data center. It was a black box solution to us. We didn't know what was going on in there. We couldn't get access to it. The only way we would be able to start unpicking it and unbundling it is by bringing it over onto one of our platforms. That then comes on to the purple box, which is AppMod. Application modernization. We've started to strip stuff out of that Horizon bundle. So where we can do, we're pulling stuff over, reimagining it. That one is not an IS play, that is a PAS play. That is where we're going in and saying, look, what bits can we do? And we've grabbed the interface bit. So you talk about a strangulation pattern. You talk about, this is one of those strangulation patterns where you've gone in and sort of said, how do I put something between that platform and the rest of the world? And that's something. And it comes into play when I talk about NBit, because NBit, and everyone's going, what the fuck is that? Because that's what I said when I first saw it. It's what we call next generation business IT. I did not come up with that name, okay? But what we're doing there is we're reimagining our retail service. So that Horizon black box is getting completely replaced by what we're building in the green box. But we can't do it all at once. So that interface, that purple block there, our interface to the rest of the world is really important for us, because we can then start moving branches between the two of them, and the rest of the world doesn't need to know about it. Yeah, so hugely important. The final bit is the other. The other doesn't, this is where we have loads of random little things that the company wants to do. It causes me a lot of problems because, again, people think, well, you're on the cloud, so I can just do it. Yeah. And especially, how many people have, proof of concepts that become production that suddenly 3 years' time are causing you problems because they haven't been built properly. That's some of the stuff we're trying to stamp out here and sort of say, look, we've got this innovation factory, we can do stuff there, but we need to do it in a governed fashion. It's not just about that initial excitement of building a bit of IT. How do I run it? How do I manage it? How do I maintain it? All that kind of stuff. So that's what we've done. If I come on to lessons learned, and I promise you, this is my last slide, so I'm not going to bash your ears much longer. So if I come into that data box, okay, so now I've been in IT a little while. If anyone had told me that you could migrate data without primary keys, I wouldn't have believed you. We tried to migrate data without primary keys. We had a whole load of people who were very highly paid to tell us, and they kind of were looking at us and saying, well, you might be able to. There was a driver behind that. We were very constrained with what we could do with the source database. Ideally, we would love to be able to transform it. Unfortunately, even for me to put a primary key on there, I need to actually start looking at the SAN and start refreshing its SAN fabric because it's running out of SAN fabric because it's all out of date. It was basically going to cost me like £20 million to put primary keys on this database. So we tried to do it without it. We failed. Okay, and it was a hard process we went through. And we had there's a very big public cloud that is named after a Brazilian rainforest. We had a lot of their very, very senior people working with us, across the globe, trying to get that done. We still failed. Okay, so probably my lesson learned is, yes, the cloud, we can do a huge lot. Some of these companies are amazing. They can really pull the rabbit out of the hat, but not all the time. It was massively painful. The next thing we'll come on to is join a mover leaver, JML. Everyone know that term, JML? Join a mover leaver. So basically, if someone joins your organization, you grant them permissions, you grant them access, you identify them, grant them a permission set. If they move, you have to change that permission set. If you have to leave, you have to take that away. Nice and simple. This is one of the biggest pain in the asses I have to deal with. We started off in a unique position in that, if I go back slides when I said, look, everything's outsourced, believe it or not, all my LDAP was outsourced as well, which caused me lots and lots of problems. An architect made a decision that we were going to forge ahead with permission sets. That was a bad idea, okay? Never move away from the LDAP model as far as I'm concerned. That was one of the biggest lessons we learned. I'm currently unpicking that right now just to make it easy. And it was fine at the start when we just had sort of like AWS or Azure or just some simple things, but then we start bolting lots of SSO applications onto it and then trying to manage people moving in, moving out. It's just, if you ever want to get me in a grumpy mood, I've got a spreadsheet that people send me saying, here's where you are with your Jira tickets and here's where you are on your SLA on those Jira tickets, and I just want to shoot myself. Talent, okay, and I talk about talent. This is one of the biggest things that we have in most organizations. I think quite a lot of you work for IT-focused organizations. They probably have this nailed. Jesus Christ, trying to recruit for me is a nightmare. So I call it, I've got this ripple effect I talk about in the bottom, but actually when you start moving into a more dynamic area, dynamic workforce, where we have lots of competition, your talent team needs to change, and we haven't done that. We've been struggling with that, and it's not just recruitment, but it's retention, it's how you do things. So I'll talk about the culture in a minute, but that's one of the key things we're trying to change to make sure we retain people, to make sure they really enjoy their job. I mean, Jack's going to probably at the end tell you how much he loves working for me. He's best boss. No, but he will. It's a key thing for us to be, get the right culture and the right things. But trying to recruit talent's been really painful. FinOps, wow, FinOps, what can I say here? This again has been, it's one of those things where we all know we should be doing it. We all know it's straightforward. I managed to cost myself $40,000 last month because someone rescanned all of our projects with Sneak, and Sneak's a SaaS solution, and that cost me a lot of money. I wasn't planning on that money, so I've now got to find that for my OpEx budget. But it's little things like this where you grow very quickly and rapidly. You put some really sensible stuff in place, but it's that weakest chink in your armor. We work on that. We've understood that. We've got that remedied. We've got that situation done. But it's one of those things. It's quite a boring area, but actually it's hugely important as a growth thing. Yeah. I bet you get really peed off when someone comes up to you and starts talking to you about, well, why have you deployed this? What's going on here? That's because I've got millions of dollars floating around. I'm trying to work out, well, am I overspending? Am I underspending? What do I need to do here? It's a hugely important area. TAMs, technical account managers, okay? Undervalued. I do. Who talks to your technical account manager? 1, 2, 3, 4 people maybe. I pester mine all day long. It's you know, but they're awesome, and they'll do all sorts of things for you if you're talking to them. So you know, it's an underused asset, and we really exploit it, and it's been hugely beneficial for us. But I would say, you know, make sure you use them. Control tower. So this is an AWS one. Who's got any love for control tower? I don't, by the way. Control tower. Yeah. Yeah. Is that better than what came before it? Yeah. So we built control tower. We did a big, you know, and we still use control tower. It just seems it's that endless investment that we seem to always have to do in it. It's just the gift that keeps giving. It does do a hugely valuable role for us. So it's not saying control tower is rubbish, but it's just like, crikey, it's something we've had to focus on a lot. Catalog, I mentioned it earlier on. You know, that blueprints, the templates. I've probably caused myself, you know, because I didn't have enough time to invest in this and make it properly accessible. We've then gone and done some stuff, S3 buckets. I've had a whole load of S3 buckets. Fortunately, it was in a sandbox environment, but it all got deployed, and you're looking at it going, well, who configured that as you surf onto it from a public endpoint? You know, it's about just sort of like, you know, there are so many things you can sort out if you manage to get your catalog up front, because then you can de-risk your deployments to your teams, and you know that, you know, your security defects aren't going to go through the roof as you're scanning your environment as you're deploying it, because you're using well-known, well-verified resources. That was a key lesson I learned. You know, CI/CD. Jack is the person redoing all my CI/CD at the moment. So sorry, you know, hands down to him. My lesson here is I wasn't paying enough attention to it. We had a program running, a big program, so about 120, 130 developers. I kind of threw someone who's doing some CI/CD work for me at them, said, you go talk to him, he'll build you something. Unfortunately, he built them something he wanted to have built. Yeah, and it was good. It was a good implementation, but it wasn't what they needed. So we're now refocusing and re-looking at that one. And that was my fault. That wasn't the developer's fault. That wasn't anyone else's fault. That was because I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy trying to sort out that data migration. The ripple effect. I mean, and this is something that probably most of you won't go near, but it will sometimes explain why people like me are really grumpy. So I have all sorts of weird and wonderful things that suddenly, you know, you move from a CapEx heavy model to an OpEx heavy model. The amount of conversations I have with finance around trying to recharge money. You know, Ben, why have you spent that $10,000? It's that team over there that need to do it. So can I recharge? I'll cross-charge that $10,000 to them. Oh no, because you can't cross-charge anything below $50,000. Damn it. You know, loads of little things like this where you, as an organization, you aren't aligned on how, you know, you move from that CapEx heavy model to an OpEx heavy model. So you have to do a lot of work else there. Now, I know that's not necessarily something that's going to impact a lot of you, but it suddenly starts to make a lot of sense when people start to get a little bit twitchy around things. Tagging, tags. Someone sent me through a spreadsheet today where they're trying to make a CMDB out of someone from us. I was like, why are you doing this? I was like, you know, surely the command line is your friend. But to be fair to him, we were missing some tags. You know, it's like, what are these things here? Tags are your friend. It's hard to do. It's so hard to get it done at the enterprise level. But if you get it done at the enterprise level, you know, it just means that everything's really easy. Identifying what's going on, knowing what's happening. And again, I'm sure I'm not preaching, but you're all going to tell me, I know this, Ben, this is really obvious stuff. And then you go back to it and you look at it and go, well, I've got missing tags here, or we've specified this tag in 5 different names, you know, division or name or unit. There's probably 5 different ways you've specified that. And, Contracts. This one's specific about the AWS contract. If any of you have to deal with that, if you're, you know, at that sort of senior level talking to AWS, it's quite an interesting place, but there's a lot of things that you have to get involved with if you're working directly with them, if you're working through a reseller. Me, I work through the government as well, so I've got a whole load of contracts there. There are lots of things you can do to apply pressure to AWS to actually get a better deal. Yeah, and you know, it's always worthwhile thinking about that one. And then finally, culture. Culture's been that thing that we're really chasing after. The pandemic hasn't helped. You know, it has meant that we've all been working remotely. I know we sort of said, you know, we want to work remotely, we do, but we will then spend a lot of time sat at our desks, you know, either talking to people on the phone or just sat at our desks, not talking or interacting with people. That culture is hugely important. Trying to get those regular touch points, trying to make sure you as a team function properly. Trying to make sure how do you import the best cultural aspects to other areas. You know, we talk about this a lot and we don't have it right. We're trying to get it right, but we haven't. It's a constant area of focus. And that is me. So sorry, that was slideware, I apologize, but there you go. Any questions, or do you want to do it afterwards?
We take, if you're happy.
Yeah?
Culture, right? How do you get your team to what you want to be? Because it's more of a people skill thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that as an engineer I find.
Yeah. So I talk to people a lot about what I call a high trust culture. Yeah. Because if I don't trust someone, what's the point? But you have to live that. You have to behave in that way. So, for example, Jack and I, we're doing a really quite important thing at the moment. So there's a lot of stress in our team. We're trying to get something done. What Jack doesn't want is me breathing down his neck every 5 minutes, going, "How's it going? How's it going? How's it going?" It's that trust. So the way you do it is by behaving that way yourself. Yeah, it sounds like such a simple thing, but it's so easy for people to forget. I've got people in my organisation that talk about high trust culture, and then they're talking to me every 5 seconds. "How's it going, Ben? How's it going, Ben? How's it going, Ben?" You've got to learn to behave in that way. And also, you've then got to learn to call out behaviour. So in a high trust culture, you can actually say, "You're not behaving the way that I want you to behave." And you do that in a non-confrontational way, but people have got to be able to accept that, I've got to change my, be challenged. It's a hard thing to do. But yeah, that high level of trust, you've got to say what you do and do what you say. You've got to behave in that way. Yeah, it's tough, and especially remotely, it's really good. So I'm conscious of time, sorry.
You mentioned you've had some issues while moving some services to AWS Virginia. Do you think that would be the case if you had gone a bit closer, like to Ireland or?
The specific service at the time was around a certificate service.
I guess it was because of data protection.
Yeah. I'm at the moment. I've got banking systems. I've got postmasters. UK data. So PII type data. Personal identifier information. Whilst I could say I got all of Europe, I don't know if all of Europe will be in that way in 3 years' time, because of UK data protection law will change. So we're trying to keep it in the UK as a minimum. Is what we're trying to do. US is a definite no-no, because that's that. But because AWS, you have different features in different regions. My mistake there was, we displayed a high level of trust but verify. I did verify at the time. I didn't then verify on an ongoing basis. So I've now fixed that. Yeah, I've now fixed that. So we changed our SCPs to make sure that they can't go and do that. I'm conscious also.
Migration readiness assessment.
Oh yeah.
How did that go? Were there things that you thought we'd be fine? That we scored low on that, but
yeah. So we did that. We did a stack of them. Okay, because it was many big systems where they were all quite on the, wow, this is going to be a bumpy ride. But actually, we were quite confident. We knew it was going to be a bumpy ride, but we had a good team. The one thing that we were concerned around was this data, and that was the thing we did first. And that was the thing that killed us. We tried very hard to get that fixed. We uncovered a lot of issues around DMS, so we got lots of, to benefit the wider community, we've got a lot of fixes in DMS now for you. So that was good. But ultimately, it was down to us. You're not going to migrate the data without the PKs in there. Simple as that. Anything else? Oh, sorry.
You spoke about FinOps. Can you give more context about how did you manage the egress cost?
The egress cost, so we don't have a huge egress cost going out. So we've done Direct Connect primarily. It's Direct Connect. So I also have another product called Connect Direct, and I just keep on. I've now got this mental. So we've got Direct Connect between ourselves and our main data center. So we manage a lot of our egress costs there. Most of the other thing is going out through the internet, because we're kind of like, so we don't have a huge ingress and egress cost. What we do have, we were burning a huge amount on just servers, IaaS servers, especially for a period of time. We were burning a lot of money there, burning a lot of money on sort of Aurora, standing up very, very big instances, running a lot of data. Believe it or not, we have huge amounts of data that we process. 11,500 branches doesn't sound it doesn't sound like a massive amount, but we have terabytes and terabytes of data we're processing a day. And then trying to replicate that, trying to then do a whole load of data handling on that. It was fun times.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Sorry, I'll someone else.
More questions, just because we've only got till 8 and we've got 2 more talks to do.